Good morning, Erin from Morehouse Farm here. I did my homework. So we have our thumbs ready to go for casting on the hand part here. And that means we have 13 stitches on each side of the needle for the small. I think it was 15 or so if you're doing a larger size, or up to you, whatever size you want to make it. This is a really good test point where you should try it on and see, if that's where the thumb gusset ends, and that's where my thumb goes in. Do I have enough room in my thumb? And if you don't, you may want to pull it back a little bit further or think about that, because we want to make sure that these fit. And the beauty of this pattern by going in this direction is you can edit that as you go. You don't have to blindly follow the pattern. You can make these little modifications yourself, which is part of why I picked it. Okay, so next we need to position the needles next to each other, and we need to slide the stitches down because we need the room here in order to cast on the next batch of stitches. And that's going to be just like what we did when we started, meaning we're going to do this Turkish cast on again. And we need to bring the yarn up between the needles to start. So see how it's coming from this back side here for me? Want to pull it up between the needles to start, okay? And then I want to make sure that they have enough room for me to cast on the right number of stitches, but I also want to make sure that they're nice and tight together. Now, I know some of you said, oh man, I had trouble pulling out the needle when I cast on originally because I held them too tight together. The reason you want them super tight here is so that you don't end up with a hole between the mitten and the hand. And that may take a little bit of experimenting again, but think about if you get them really, really tight, you can just wiggle a needle usually. It may take a little bit to get it out, but I think it's well worth it just to get the stitches tight so you don't have that hole later on. Okay, so we are going to hold these together tightly. We're going to have the yarn coming up from between the needles. You can see that there. And we're going to bring it down so the first needle closest to us is the one that gets the first wrap, and then up and around. That's one. And remember, it stops here, meaning if I was just going to drop this, I've added now one stitch to this side and one stitch to this side. It's getting nice and loose, but just to show you, here we go with that's one pair of stitches. Okay, 2, 3, 4, 5, and also slide them down 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, because if you wrap them like this, they're going to have extra slack in them. If you squish them up, they're going to have less slack as you pull. 11, 12, 13, and you can see I'm just scooching them down with my thumb. 14, 15, that allows me to pull on them a little bit as I go. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and keep going for the right number, whichever size you're going on. Now remember that our first one was on the needle closest to us, which means our last one needs to be on the needle farthest away from us. So we pull out the back needle, and again, tight, but wiggle it a little bit. You'll get a little at a time. Maybe tough, but it'll be worth it not to have to deal with a hole later. And bring it back around so we can start to knit. Okay. So we now have this extra wrap here, right? And you can verify with yourself, count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Don't you just love the way the color changes in these variegated? 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So this guy I don't want over the top here. Be careful of that. And now, right, I'm going to start to knit, and I want to be careful that I don't end up twisting the stitch. So if I go back in here and I knit this one, now watch also I have the yarn wrapped around my needle. You know, that's something I do a lot of. Right, get that situated before you start knitting so it's not frustrating later. Okay, so if I knit in here, which I absolutely can, and it might feel comfortable, just know that I'm going to have a little bit of a twist right there. So what I would do, or what I have done, through here, it's really awkward, just like the first stitch on the regular one, and it's almost like an E-loop cast on stitch. There's not much to it. But then as I come down to these next ones, needle through hole, it's a croquet wicket again, open over the top. This time the right leg is forward, so you're almost going to be knitting the way you're used to. And it doesn't matter if you're picking or throwing here. We're just trying to get back to where we started, because this is the beginning of the side of the hand, which I think is also super cool because you can add to it as you go. If you have longer fingers than the pattern calls for, you can just add some stitches here to have that keep going. Now, that means also that you get to decide how much of a difference one stitch is going to make. So if you get back here to where you started and you say, oh man, I don't think I have the right number of stitches, count them and see how close you are. And where would be a good place to add one? Because you can go back and recast on over and over and over again. But at some point, just say, you know what? I need to be able to make these adjustments on the fly because I gotta keep going. And that's where you figure, where could I add an increase if I need to? That's always an option in your knitting. Where can you bury an increase or a decrease so that you don't have to start all over again? Knitting isn't about perfection. Right? If we wanted it perfect, well, we wouldn't be making it, right? This is more about having fun and learning. So here I am, back to my 25, and that should be accurate because I don't have any more wraps on here. Okay, we can count them out if we want, but I'm going to go with it because it's not that important to me. I know I've got it certainly close. And then I need to knit 2. Okay, and then the instructions say you want to close the small hole by lifting the right leg of the decreased stitch on the left needle. So if we read that very, very literally, right leg, which is this guy, on the left side here, and that twists it, knit that to close the loop that, or the little hole that was there. So if you read it the way that you're expecting, which is, oh, it should be the leg on this side. No, I think that was me reading what I wanted to read. That's not me reading what this actually says. So if we do what she says, we're twisting a stitch, which is a really good way to close a hole. So, gotta have faith. Okay, so next we need to work a shadow wrap for our short rows. And the way we do that is partly like those lifted increases that we talked about before. So we're going to lift on the right side, a stitch up and put it on the needle, and then we're going to knit it, and then we're going to transfer it back to the left needle, and that is our shadow wrap. Okay, so then I'm going to turn my work, and it says that I'm going to work my way around. You decide how you want to purl. I am a combination purler. So yes, I'm wrapping the yarn opposite the way most of you are. I find that for 2 reasons. 1, actually 3. First, it doesn't hurt. With my tendonitis, I had to figure out a better way to do this because the regular continental purling just was painful. So this way alleviates that. Takes a lot of motion out of it, so it's a faster stitch for me. And it also uses less yarn. So if you find that when you have knitting and purling 2 rows, you will often find that you use different amounts of yarn because the purl stitch tends to take just a little bit more yarn. And remember, when you do this to purl, look how much looser that is. Again, that's something that comes with practice. A really experienced picking purler probably doesn't have that problem anymore. So we adapt, right? Either I need to practice a lot more or I need to figure a way that works well for me. And see how I'm working just here with my tips, but making sure the stitches slide all the way on to the needle because I want to make sure that I have it nice and tight, yet that I'm still able to work those stitches. Okay, coming around to the end here. Okay, so just like with anything else, we've purled, one side of the hand. You can see it start to form. Pretty cool. Pull the cord so that you can knit on the other needle. Okay, we're gonna pull out this what's the right needle on this side. It was our left needle over here. Pull it around, and here we go. Again, it's okay if it starts to cup. You kind of want that because it is going to be the edge of the hand. And we're going to continue purling. So one good way to do that may be purl the first stitch and then shore up the yarn. Give it a tug, just to make sure it's nice and cozy. So we're purling around. We're going to do exactly the opposite, the mirror of what we just did, by coming around here. Oops, purling all of the stitches on the other side. And by the way, these have just been hanging out on the cord. You haven't done anything with them yet. So these are really your cast-ons, but they're now anchored because we've knit them from the other side. That's what I think is so cool about these two-way cast-ons. You don't need a lot to anchor them, and once they're there, they're not going anywhere. So see how that's starting to evolve as the side of our mitten? So here we keep going. And remember what I said about the tug on the yarn? The more you have to tug, the tighter things get. So if you need two hands to do that, pull it out. And yeah, here, look. Sometimes it does this thing. I've heard it referred to as yarn barf, where it just pulls a lot out. And remember, that stickiness of wool is what you want. It's going to help your steek not go anywhere. But don't be afraid to pull out a bunch just so that you don't have to keep fighting with it, because we don't need any more tension in our lives. Okay, keep going. We're going to purl to the end. Okay, and then there's the purl 2, which are, these are the two that were right on the edge. Right, they were the last of your decreased stitches. So that was the purl 2. Okay, and then close the small hole by lifting a loop from the decreased part and purl it. So you decide where. If you want to go opposite like we just did, right? But she gives you the choice. So you could twist that stitch, purl that, and call that good. All right, and then you need to wrap the short row shadow wrap, but on the wrong side. So that would mean lifting, right? But you see the purl bump here, that almost is easier to grab because you know what you're after. Put that up, purl it, so you're maintaining the same pattern, and then slide that back onto the needle, but make sure you bring your yarn forward first. All right, and then when you turn it around, you're gonna start knitting. And here we go. This is where getting some of that yarn tension is going to be important. See how just a small tug shores that right up right there. And there you go. There's the beginning of our first side of the hand. Happy knitting.